Hi, and welcome to this week's Thursday Thoughts. I'm Sarah Hammerker, and I'm glad you joined me. Ever heard the phrase talk is cheap? If there ever was a parenting myth that has gained prominence in today's child-rearing culture, it's the one that says we can reason our child into proper behavior. I'm sorry, I have a hard time keeping a straight face when I hear that one. We had friends, and we still have, they're still our friends, but when their daughter she was about 3 or 4, we had them over for dinner, and our girls were a little bit older than her daughter, and our boys were a little bit younger. But this couple, he was talking about his daughter, and he couldn't understand why she was constantly misbehaving. And he said, yeah, I sit her down and we have these conversations, you know, about why she can't do a certain thing, and she still does it. And I'm trying to keep a straight face because we cannot talk a child into behaving properly, period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Why? Because kids are not logical beings. That's right. They are not logical beings. They do not think like adults think. Their brains are not wired like ours because they're still developing, and they won't be until they reach adulthood. Therefore, kids think very differently than we do. If you ask a kid why she did something you think is rather strange, you'll find the answer will be even stranger, if they can even come up with an answer. It won't make sense to anyone but the child, or maybe another kid. So when I hear parents talk about reasoning with their child to elicit good behavior, my immediate reaction is, and how's that going for you? Most of the time, it's not going well, is it? The adult expresses frustration at the lack of cooperation from the child, even after the parent has explained in great detail exactly why the room needs cleaning now instead of later, or why they should pick up their shoes, or why they shouldn't pinch their brother. To avoid pulling out your hair because it's so frustrating, my advice is simply stop trying. Just don't explain, reason, or try to talk your child into obedience. This is not to say that you cannot on occasion offer an explanation, but just know your kid is never going to, your explanation is never going to satisfy them. The child is never going to look at you and say, gee, Mom, when you put it that way, of course I understand what you're saying and will be happy to do what you ask. Or, of course, Mom, I agree that, yeah, I shouldn't go do such and such with my friend. What you can do instead, and this is almost a guarantee, because kids are not animals, almost a guarantee to get the child to be obedient is to use clear, precise instructions in an economy of words and act like you expect to be obeyed. Why we torture ourselves with wanting agreement when that agreement is not going to come until the child is an adult herself and has children of his or her own, I don't know. Why we long for that agreement, that buy-in. It's only when our kids are adults that we may get the response we're looking for in our preschooler, our tween, our teenager. But until that day, I say talk is cheap, so stop talking. Save your breath. Talk to your spouse or your partner instead. I hope you join me next week for another Thursday Thought.